Hey, everybody. Dave Hagan here. I want to talk about timeshares again. That's today on the Financial Wellness Podcast.
Welcome to the Financial Wellness Podcast, Dave's weekly message to keep you on your path to the financial success. Here is your host, financial problem solver and talk show host, Dave Hagan.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 410 of the Financial Wellness Podcast, or the TFWP, as we like to call it. Today with me, hey, it's Nick Appel.
Hey, it's Dave Hagan.
How you doing, man?
Good, man. Just enjoying the views.
Good to see you coming to us from San Diego today, right?
Yep.
Loving it. Hey, Brian Reed has got the week off. He deserves a week off after working hard all this time. So we will probably talk to him next week or the week thereafter. Brian Reed, we miss you. We're going to see you soon. I want to talk more about timeshares today. I know we've talked about them in the past. We did an episode. We're going to play some clips from it in a few minutes. But people are always writing and asking me questions about timeshares. You know, should I get a timeshare? I deserve a vacation, blah, 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 blah. Well, we broke this down, probably about a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
And kind of pulled it apart and looked at a timeshare for what it actually was. Let's take a listen. Hey, everybody. Dave Hagan here. Hey, today I want you to give me about an hour of your time so I can make a presentation to you about a product. And if you listen all the way through, I've got a gift for you at the end. Does that sound familiar? That's today on the Financial Wellness Podcast. I think everyone's been subject to this pitch. Hey, let us make a 1-hour timeshare presentation to you. And if you listen, we'll give you like a weekend free in Las Vegas. Happened to you? Happened to me. But is it a good idea? Now, I could give you my thoughts on it very quickly. I could say yes or no or whatever, and, well, we could all go home. But let's think this through a little bit. I think that you'll find it pretty interesting because there's some eye-opening stuff going on here. So timeshares. Timeshares is a big business in the United States. The first timeshare was in Kauai, Hawaii in 1969, I'm told. And according to ARDA, A-R-D-A, which is, by the way, the American Resort Development Association, the timeshare people, there were $10 billion in sales, in timeshare sales in 2018. That's $10 billion. And the average sales price was almost $22,000. So $22,000 on the average for a timeshare, a new one. And the average maintenance fee is about $1,000 a year currently. Now, I was kind of doing some research around on the internet and found out that as little as 5 years ago, that average maintenance fee was about $600. So it's gone up substantially in the last 5 years. Anyway, who cares? I mean, who really cares? Buy one and have a free vacation for life, right? I mean, that sounds pretty good. But the answer is not necessarily. Let's break it down a little bit further. A lot of people might ask, what's a timeshare? Well, it can vary, but it goes like this. When you buy some property, you get a deed, and you can use that property pursuant to that deed full-time, or think of it this way, a full 52 weeks a year. With a timeshare, you share the property with 51 other people. Now, you can use it for the whole week, but you're really a co-owner with 51 other people. Sound like a good deal? Now, some timeshares allow you the same week every year. Some have floating weeks that you can reserve, usually within certain times within the year. Like, for example, if you get a skiing timeshare, you will buy within, the winter season. And if you buy within the summer season, it's much less because people don't want to be at a ski resort in the summer typically. So that time will float. Some timeshares are not even shared ownership, but shared leases. So you share a common lease with 51 other people. I don't know. It's starting to get a little loosey-goosey in my mind. Some timeshares are even based upon points in a club. Now, a lot of people like this, but, to put up money for points in a club that you can turn in for, weeks, different weeks at different places. I don't know. Some timeshares you can just rent out your week. Some timeshares you can exchange for property in other areas, but you better get that swap done early because you want to have a good one to exchange to, and your timeshare better be pretty good. I'll give you an example. There's a timeshare place I know in Ventura, California, which, by the way, is a really nice place to go, but it's not particularly well known. So you let your timeshare people know that, hey, I got this place in Ventura. Not a lot of people are necessarily going to want to pick it up. They say that Hawaii is probably one of the best places to have a timeshare. Vegas, I don't know. It depends. There's a lot of timeshare places in Vegas, but I don't know. Maybe people like to be at the hotels and stuff more. How about timeshares in Barstow, California? Now that's a great place to go play golf, but Barstow, California, I don't know. Not so much. Not so much. All right. So here's basically the deal. You buy the timeshare for about $22,000 and you own it forever. You get a deed. It's a recorded deed in most cases. And you pay a maintenance fee of about $1,000 a year. That's really about $80 a month for life. As long as you own or your name is on that timeshare, $80 a month for life. Still a good deal? And when you're done with it, if you don't want to pay the $80 a month on the maintenance fee for life, you must do something with it. You've got to sell it or give it away if someone will take it, or will it to your kids, or do whatever you need to do. And if you sell it, studies show that the resale value is less than 50% of what you paid. But you got to get it out of your name when you're done with it, because otherwise you still owe the $80 a month for as long as you owe it. Still sound like a good idea? I don't know. Here's some of my thoughts. First of all, you never want to borrow money. That's a primary thing that we talk about here at TFWP. You try to never borrow money. Maybe short term for a house, but you never want to borrow money, and you never want to borrow money for an asset that declines in value. It's almost worse than a car. We've talked about not wanting to buy a car because it declines in value, especially if you buy it right off the new car lot. In this case, it's actually worse than a car, because if a car gets old, you can pick it up, have it towed, and have the title closed out. But a timeshare, it's always going to be there, $80 a month to maintain it. I don't know. Another thought, do you really love the place? Are you really going to go to the same place every year, maybe even during the same week, for the rest of your life? Aren't you going to get bored with the place maybe? After 3, 4, 5 times, you go, oh man, I've been there, done that, seen that. I don't know if I want to go there again. I don't know. I think I would get bored. Now, yeah, you might be able to exchange your unit for a unit somewhere else, like, Ventura for California to something in Miami, Florida, or something like that. But you've got to tie it up a year in advance typically, especially for the good places. And you've got to have something really good to trade. So I don't know. Do you really love the place that much? Another thought, do you really want to pay $80 a month? And it might increase, as it has the last 5 years, for the rest of your life? That's kind of a millstone around your neck as you're putting together your monthly spending plan, and you have to put in $80 a month for the maintenance fee on your timeshare, assuming that you paid cash for the timeshare, by the way. Assuming that you already paid $22,000, do you really want to budget in $80 a month for the rest of your life, or until you get out of it? And that's another thought. How do you bail out? How do you bail out on this thing? You can sell it. Yes, you can sell it, but it's a tough sale. They're typically done online these days. You should pay broker's fees. A lot of times these go through escrow. The buyer's going to want access to the place. They're not going to pony up $7,000, $8,000 unless they see it. And how do you get them in to see it during the specific week? Or can you get the management company to let them walk through? Or are they going to go there and fly to Colorado to see what that ski place looks like, or fly to Hawaii to check it out? It's a tough sell. It's really a tough sell. Another way to get out of it, there's places that are, or businesses actually, that are called exit teams. And basically you're hiring a lawyer or a company to get you out. And you're going to have to pay them fees to negotiate with the timeshare company to get them to sell it or take it back. You could just give it to the to the timeshare people, and then they'll own it, and then they can rent it out. I mean, you could do that, but you're walking away from all of your investment. It's not really an investment, by the way, but all of the money that you put into it. Same thing with the exit teams, by the way. You're generally just going to walk away from the whole thing. You could give it away, but if you go to a charity and say, here's this valuable thing that you can auction off at the annual fundraiser, but you got to pay $80 a month to maintain it. I don't think the charity's going to want that unless you prepay a maintenance fee for a bunch of years. You could give it in your will and trust when you pass, but the kids might not want it. The kids might not like going to Branson every year, which would be an interesting timeshare, but not for younger kids necessarily. They might disclaim the gift from the trust or the will and say, no thanks. Another thought, will you trust the management company forever? It's like the homeowners association. Will you trust them forever? What if there's poor management? What if they let the place fall into disrepair and no one wants to go there? What if the neighborhood around the timeshare declines, sometimes through no fault of the timeshare company or the development? It seems to me there's a lot of issues and risk, especially when you're talking about how difficult it can be to get out of that. Couple of things to think about. So as a result, timeshares are usually sold with a high pressure pitch and to people that are typically on vacation. They really want to make it some kind of an impulse buy, because if somebody sits at home and starts to analyze this really clearly, some of these downsides start to come to the front of their mind. And they'll usually give you something up front for free, right? Like the weekend in Vegas. But isn't this what like the credit card companies are doing? Hey, we'll give you 20,000 points, which is about $200, I guess, when you sign up. So we'll give you $200, or we'll give you a weekend in Vegas to commit to $22,000 to purchase and $80 a month for the rest of your life. So what? Still sound like a good idea? I don't know. Think about it. Let me tell you about my experience. I got a little story here to tell you. This was some years ago, but my wife and I were skiing in Utah, and we were offered a free lift ticket each, which is a fairly nice piece of money for a 1-hour presentation in the morning. Well, what a deal. We thought, look, let's get there first thing at 8 o'clock. We'll be on the slopes by 9:15. We'll give them that hour. We're going to say no because I don't think we want to necessarily do that, but let's listen to what they have to say. Never been part of a timeshare pitch, so we checked it out. And I figured, you know what, even if it's a strong pitch, I consider myself pretty strong-willed. So we sat there for the hour and listened to some guy outline it for us. And the deal was, as I recall, about $25,000 for a week, and it included 80 free ski lift tickets. Now that means that the two of us could ski for free for like 40 days. Well, that would last us a whole bunch of years because we don't get a chance to ski that much. And it sounded really good. And then the discussion came to how we would pay. And we didn't have $25,000 in the bank. I don't know that anyone should have $25,000 in the bank or their checking account. It should be, in some kind of securities or in a money market or something. And we said, well, we could sell some money out of our securities account, but that didn't sound that good to us because we would lose future appreciation on that money, potentially interest on that money, and it would distract us from getting to where we thought we were moving financially. They said they would finance it. They had a finance company. I think it was something like 10 to 15%. And we said, no, that's not, I don't really want to do that. They even suggested, get this, they even suggested that we could take a second out on our house to get the $25,000. So, and we'd get a lower interest rate on the second. And, when they... when they started talking about taking a second out of the house, that's when we said, check please. And this happened several years ago. I mean, certainly before TFWP, and we were thinking quite so critically about these kinds of things, but it just didn't sound that good to us. But man, 80 free lift tickets sounded pretty good, and the resort that we were sitting at was probably as good as we'd ever seen. We were looking around going, man, this is the best. But, we decided to pass. So when we told the guy, yeah, I don't think so, give us our free lift ticket, please, he said, no, we have to bring in the manager. The manager's the only one that hands out the free tickets. Well, they were bringing in the real hard sell person, as it turns out. So we had to wait another period of time for her to be free. And remember, this is in the morning when we wanted to go skiing, and they knew it. But they finally brought her in, and she gave us the even harder sell, like, how can you pass up this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity kind of thing? And that went on for another 30, 40 minutes. And finally she said, okay, I'll give you the promised tickets for today. Well, I hope so. That was the promise. But it's like she was giving us some concession for being able to survive her hard sell. I hope so. We got the tickets, but it took all morning. They knew this. They knew they were going to tie up our morning. Obviously, it was part of the plan, I'm sure. So we spent one half of our 5 days total, skiing, sitting in an office, and, we got a used ticket, each of us, that we ended up using only about half the day. It almost didn't seem like they were going to let us out. Like they knew we couldn't walk out because then we couldn't get our free ticket, right? I mean, we'd already invested the time, so you kind of had to sit there. We had to sit there. And we skied a half a day for free, but was it worth it? I don't think so. It was a nice enough place, and it certainly would have been, we would have skied a lot at that resort with 80 tickets, but I'll bet we wouldn't have used all the 80 tickets, and we would be so tired of skiing at one particular place, and I don't know that it was worth it. And I got to tell you, as much as I asked for it, I still resented the hard sell. I still see the manager coming at us dressed to the nines and going, wow, here comes the person that's going to apply the thumb screw. But it was really interesting as can be to see them do their thing. So that's my story. Here's a tip, something that I learned from that. They start out asking you how much you spend a year on your vacation. And once you answer this question with the dollar amount, now they've set up a premise to sell you a timeshare. They're essentially getting you to prepay on your vacation, and they'll work through the numbers and they'll show you how it's actually so much cheaper to buy the timeshare than to spend money on a hotel room or a B&B or whatever you do and go someplace. And it's paid in advance, and you only have to pay this amount, and it's a really good value. And if you get tired of the place, you can swap and but don't fall for that premise, Just tell them you don't go on vacation that often. It makes it much harder for them to sell. If they don't get a number from you, then their next step is going to be, well, you really deserve vacation, don't you? Don't you really deserve to be with your family? And when you have young kids, you want to bring them along. And don't you deserve that? Don't accept the premise. Tell them, hey, I really don't go on vacation that much. Or tell them what you actually spend. But be very realistic about it. If you don't accept their premise, it makes it harder for them to accept their conclusion. So is this really a scam? Well, no, not really. I mean, it's legal. It's legal in all 50 states from what I know. But in some cases, maybe it's worth it. I mean, if you buy one used, remember I said that you buy one used, it's like less than 50% of the original price. Kind of like a car. Think of that. Kind of like a car. After some years, it's worth a whole lot less. But if you buy one used through like a website, or if you see an ad or something like that, you could get in one at a pretty low price, and that makes the upfront better. Now, you're still going to be responsible for the absolute full amount of the maintenance fee. But if you get in cheaper, maybe. Or if you think you want to be at the same place every year for the rest of your life, I mean, that doesn't sound very exciting, but maybe. If that's the case, maybe that's not a bad idea. If you'd like to plan your vacation a year in advance And if you want to exchange, you got to do it a year in advance. And if you've got a week that moves within a certain zone in the year, you've got to reserve it in advance. And a lot of people reserve it right after they leave. They reserve it 1 year ahead of time. So if you like to do that, or you want to spend a lot of time trading, looking at pictures on the internet, et cetera, maybe it's not a bad idea. But you've got to be the kind of person that likes to spend a lot of time shopping or comparing offers on the internet. I mean, kind of like the type of person that enjoys comparing credit card offers or coupons. There are some people that find that very, very entertaining. And if you do, well, I mean, maybe. It wouldn't be my cup of tea. I wouldn't do it. So I think the answer is no, it's not a scam. And in some very, 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 very limited circumstances, maybe you consider it. Especially if you buy a used. I think only an idiot would buy something directly from a timeshare company for the full price that in a year or two is going to be worth half or less as much. But maybe in limited circumstances, I like the flexibility of not having it. I prefer the greater flexibility. More recently in the last bunch of years, places have arisen like Vacation Rental by Owner, VRBO, or they call themselves Verbo for some reason now, or Airbnb, which is getting a lot more air. And you can go wherever you want. Really, you can see the pictures. You can find out what the costs are. You have all these different choices. And yeah, occasionally you get a stinker that you rent there and you show up and you go, wow, this isn't really what I thought. But for the most part, it's kind of exciting to see what a new and different place is. You're typically getting places that have, kitchens and multiple bathrooms and that kind of stuff. And I prefer the variety of that. And that's another reason why I'm not a big fan of timeshares at all. And if you don't go on vacation, and there's some years where you don't, you just leave the money in the bank and take the interest or the appreciation on your stock. In a timeshare, if you don't use it, I don't know that they're going to build up that much. Some do, some don't. But you're paying for it anyway. If you don't go on vacation a year and you're still paying $80 a month, I'm not digging that. I'm not digging that as I put together my monthly spending plan. So I don't know. Here's a thought. Take the money, the $22,000 that you would use, and put it in a securities account and pick kind of a boring securities account that's going to return you some interest. And, some years less, some years more. We've talked about this on TFWP so many times, but maybe you'll get an average of, 10% appreciation or 10% dividend. Well, that means you're going to have about $2,200 a year as a budget to go on vacation. Use that as part of your vacation budget. Heck, some years you might not even spend that. Sometimes you'll just go, to the coast and spend 4 or 5 days and come back and put that money or leave that money behind in the account and let it appreciate. Don't think of it as an investment. An investment is not something that will almost certainly decline in value. If the salesman says to you, hey, it's a great real estate investment, walk away. If he says it's an investment in future vacations, walk away. They obviously don't respect your intelligence, especially now that you know what we've talked about here today on TFWP. Well, those are my thoughts on timeshares, and I'm sticking with them. If there's any listeners out there that sell timeshares, hey, give me a call. I'd love to have you on the show. And I think we could have a lively exchange of thoughts and have an interesting conversation. I think it'd be a lot of fun. Wow. What we said back then is still so true today. These timeshare things are a difficult thing to get in and get out of. Nick, you weren't part of the show on that particular date, but now that you've had an opportunity to kind of had timeshares unmasked for you, what do you think?
Dave, was that a pun? Was that to say unmask as unmasked. In Corona? Because this is not a coronavirus edition.
This is not a CV edition. No.
To be honest, Dave, just stay out of it. That's my opinion.
I think that's what we came up with back in the day is stay away from it. But, think this through. They grant you a fractional interest in some real estate. And once you pay for it, $15,000, $20,000, $25,000, in some cases $40,000, $45,000, you get assessed an annual management fee of $500 or $1,000 or $1,200, and it seems to go up every year.
Oh my God,
yeah.
fees!
And once it's in your name, you really can't get rid of it.
Dave, I can't stand fees. I look at my bank account, fees. I look at my trust account, fees. I mean, just get me away from them.
And once you have this interest in your name, what are you going to do? Who are you going to grant it to? Someone has to accept it. I mean, I guess what you could do is just get the name of the neighbor that you hate and fill out a grant deed and record it. And that way the neighbor owns it and doesn't know about it. Of course, once the neighbor knows that, they can disclaim that deed and it'll come back to you. Well, believe me, the neighbor, when they get their first bill for $1,000 for management fees, they'll see who the grantee on the deed was, and they'll be knocking on your door. But wouldn't that be interesting to do, right?
100%.
Yeah, no, it'd be classic. So yeah, it's as difficult today as it was back then. And these things continue to proliferate. What do you think about that, Nick?
I think it tends to proliferate, Dave.
Proliferate. Proliferate. One of those lates.
I think it's a great word. And I actually, on this topic, I 100% agree with you.
There you go. There you go. Well, since we're in agreement, that's a wrap. This is Dave Hagan, and you've been listening to the Financial Wellness Podcast.
You've been listening to the Financial Wellness Podcast, Dave's weekly message to keep you on your path to financial success. If you have a question that you would like Dave to answer on the podcast, go to thefinancialwellnesspodcast.com. You can leave an audio message with one click of a button, or type your message into the question box. Either way, it's sent right to Dave's phone. Remember, Dave will randomly draw from the submitted questions and pick the winner of a free 1-hour personal conversation with Dave to help you achieve your financial goals. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you receive the new episode notifications, or share the podcast via the app with your family and friends. This is your announcer, Nick Appel, wishing you every financial success.